Okay, I think we're ready to kick off. Plenty of people online. Looks like the inflow of attendees has slowed down as well. So thank you very much for joining us today. A fairly special one that's been in the making for quite some time at Creditwatch, where we're introducing a new report, which we're calling the Financial Risk Assessment. It is a manually sourced report, and we're obviously going to get into the details, what we're pulling, what you're going to see, where to order it, that sort of thing. But it's certainly very exciting. It is something that plenty of our customers have been asking for quite some time. So before we get started, as always, can I ask questions? Yes, you can. You can do that in the GoToWebinar control panel. Will I get a recording and today's presentation slides? Yes, you will. It's always recorded, and we always provide the slides out to you as well. So if you have to leave early, we're obviously sorry to see you go early. You'll be able to catch up. And if you want to pass it on to a colleague or friend, by all means, we encourage that as well. A little bit about Creditwatch today, Australia's leading and most innovative commercial credit reporting bureau with well over 50,000 customers now. I've got a nice suite of our products here. I believe that we sent this webinar invite out to customers only, so I won't go through everything in detail here, but of course, the main products that we offer, Creditwatch, our core product, DebtorLogic Plus, to analyze your receivables ledger, directed due diligence, looking at the individuals behind the business. PlayEasy is our online credit application. PPSR Logic is our PPSR registration management tool. And of course, the newest one into the suite, financial risk assessments. All of these have links in them, so you can click through and have a look at a little bit more information about those if they are new to you or of interest. But of course, you can always just contact us and we will take you through a demonstration or set up a trial for you if that's on the cards. If you haven't seen, we've released episode 5 and 6 of our most recent Crew Watches as well. They're online and on YouTube and on LinkedIn, everywhere. We basically push it out wherever we can. So quick poll question to get started. Do you currently order financial risk reports? Now, you obviously don't know exactly what I'm talking about from a financial risk report, what that means for Creditwatch, but essentially I'm talking about a report that you would order. It would review financials, whether it's ASX, ASIC, or the company that you want the assessment done on provided to you. It usually takes a day, 2 days, 3 days. It's assessed by, usually a financial analyst, a CA, accountant, CPA, something similar. So what we're asking here is, do you currently order them? You obviously can't get them from Creditwatch. That's a mistake on my behalf, putting from Creditwatch or elsewhere. It's going to be elsewhere most likely, or you don't. So you're just joining us today to understand, what it is that we've got, what we're providing, see how beneficial it might be to your business. So yes, if you do currently order reports that sound similar to what I just explained there, please select yes. If not, select no. All right, most of you have voted. Thank you very much for that. Close that poll. So it's about 30% of you are ordering them at the moment. So that's good to know for the webinar. Let's get into it then. What is a financial risk assessment? So what we're doing is we're combining a bunch of information that you currently have access to, and then utilizing financial information and the skills of an analyst. So it's providing you with a comprehensive look into the financial health of a company. It's utilizing, first and foremost, the most important thing that we have to have for this report are company financials. Now, as I said, they can be available via ASIC if the entity is a reporting entity and they have to upload their financials on an annual basis to ASIC. If the entity isn't a reporting entity and they're a public company, we can source it from the ASX, of course. And if they don't fit into either of those buckets, what we do is we get you to request the financials from the entity that you want the report on. Now, as we get feedback on this product, as we sell more and more of these or provide more and more of these reports, we will create additional sort of support features around it, such as the ability to, send out requests to your customers or suppliers, for example, asking that they submit financials for the purpose of, supplier risk assessment or a large credit limit request, something like that. So we will assist you with capturing that information, financial information, from the companies that you want to run the reports on. And in time, you'll be able to outsource that service to us in whole. The other two bits of information we've got here, of course, ASIC corporate information. So looking at directors, shareholders, addresses, etc. Cross directorship information. Are they the directors of other companies? Are those other companies in good financial health? And then, of course, Creditwatch data, looking at default information. Do they have any court actions, insolvency notices? Are debt collectors chasing them? What is their credit score? How are they paying the market via the payment predictor? All of these things combined into a report by a skilled expert financial analyst, generally a CA, CPA, or similar. They are producing all of that information into a report, and there's two types of reports that come out from that, what we call in financial risk assessment and financial risk assessment with analysis. Now that with analysis bit, it is, we're providing, that analyst is providing additional commentary based on the results of their financials, their credit report, and their ASIC documentation as well. So it's a little bit more of an in-depth or comprehensive review, and you're getting that human analysis rather than just the black and white information being put together. I will show you examples of these reports as well. They are fairly sizable, but it'll start to give you a better understanding of what information is being included in it. So some of you are obviously ordering these reports at the moment, which is great. Some of you aren't. So there's a question that comes up quite a bit when we've been talking to existing customers about this: is why would I order a financial risk assessment? Now, it's really important to obviously assess the financial viability of important trading partners. Okay, now you might think to yourself or say to me, Patrick, we're already doing that. We're using Creditwatch, we perform credit checks, we're monitoring, etc. Yes, that's great. You're 100% correct. But where you would use a financial risk assessment is for larger exposures or larger dollar values. Okay, and this is across customers, suppliers, even contractors that you might be using. So I've got a couple of examples here. Obviously, the first one that fits with Creditwatch and the way most people use Creditwatch is for large credit limits. Now, a large credit limit for one company could be, $100,000. For another company, it could be $1 million. That's ultimately for you to determine what the, what the risks are for you and what is a large credit limit. But what you want to be able to do is get a little bit more information, a little bit more security, more of a guarantee that you are making the right decision to increase a credit limit or open an account for someone with a large credit limit. Okay. On the supplier side, so looking at the other side of the ledger, critical supplier contracts. Now, a critical supplier contract could be one that if the supplier went down, that would have a detrimental effect on your business. It could be the end of your business because they're providing a core product or service. It could be that the supplier contract is significantly large. Again, talking hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars. So you need to be sure that when you're assessing, multiple suppliers, that you're only going to pick one of them. You want to make sure that you are picking one that is, from a financial standpoint, healthy, is going to be able to fulfill that contract now and in the future for the life of that contract. Okay, you want to make sure that you've got the confidence in them to deliver on what they're saying. Similar to the next one, sizable tenders for those outside, for those in the business of running tenders, or it could be that you're in, the credit risk or accounts receivable part of the business, but you know that your organization that you work for runs tenders or sizable procurement projects. Having the ability to access this financial risk assessment, looking at the financials of it, the health, the viability, the long-term view, how they've been tracking historically, that sort of thing. Very important when you get to that tender process. It could mean the difference between awarding a tender or a new supplier contract to two totally different businesses. They both look like they provide similar services, similar level of quality and customer service, but it turns out that one of those organizations could be on the brink of failure, and the other one is actually improving year in, year out. So there's sort of 3 different ways or reasons you would order a financial risk assessment. What is required for the report? So obviously these questions have come through from people that we're speaking to already. So forming the core of this report is obviously the financial information. Now, ASIC data in terms of directors, shareholders, addresses, Creditwatch information is already provided. We're providing that same information that you would see in a normal report. We're combining that with financials. And as I said, financials are available generally from ASIC or ASX. So if they are available from one of those 2 sources, great. There's no additional information required. You don't have to do anything else. If they're not available, then we need to request that from the company direct. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this, as I touched on. A lot of organizations will say to that large customer or supplier or people that are engaged in a tender process, the applicants within a tender process, hey, as part of this contract relationship process, you need to provide financials. The organizations who are vying for that most of the time understand that by providing the financials, they are in with a shot. If they do not provide the financials, then there is no chance they are getting that credit limit, that credit account. They won't be considered to be, a supplier, and they certainly will fail the tender. So asking for that information is quite common when we're dealing with, large credit limits or large supplier contracts, for example. This at the moment is up to our customer, up to you to ask for that. However, some really good ways to do it are obviously utilizing things like Apply Easy. For those of you who are familiar with it, great. For those of you who are not, it is our online credit application or online application solution. You can send suppliers or customers, anyone, an entity to this online application. They fill in their information, contact details, addresses, who are the directors, etc., etc. Creditwatch is analyzing, verifying that data in real time to ensure it's all correct. And at the same time, you can ask for the last 2 years or 3 years worth of financials from that particular entity. They can upload that into a secure folder, and then you have access to that information. And importantly, Creditwatch also has access to that information so that we can generate one of these financial risk assessments. So it's a really streamlined process for both yourselves, but also for the end user, either the customer or the supplier. The best way to do it is through that Apply Easy. In time, we will most likely be able to get on the phone and request that information for you. However, it's always best if it is coming from the entity that is going to be running the report and requires that. Okay, sometimes people would prefer to provide it direct to you than to a third party. So let's have a look at a bit of a live demonstration. So you're probably thinking, where can I access this information? So just on our features, there is a landing page with a little bit more information about what's included, what are the differences, benefits, frequently asked questions as well. And what we also have is, of course, the ability to order one of these reports. So if you run a normal credit report within Creditwatch, just use an example company here, Acme One Proprietary Limited. This is your standard report that you would normally run. You can see all the information. On the right-hand side here, in this little section, is a financial risk assessment. And it's got a couple of drop downs and questions for you to complete, so we can get that information, collect the information, understand exactly what you want, and then obviously go back and source that, put the report together and send it through to you. So it's giving you a little high level bit of information about exactly what is a financial risk assessment. It does flag here that the reports can take up to 2 business days to be delivered, as they are being produced by a financial analyst. You've got 2 examples here, view example of the financial risk assessment and the financial risk assessment with analysis, and I will show you those in just a second. But the important next steps here are the types of assessments, okay? So we're going to select that first report there, financial data. Now, you may know this, you may not know this. Potentially we will get a third option put in there. Just thinking through as I do it myself is unknown. So you could select self-provided financials, number of years. You've got the opportunity or the option rather to say, I want 2 years worth. I want the analysis done on 2 years worth or 3 years worth of financials. Send the financial report to, so it's automatically going to populate my email address in here. However, if you want it sent to someone else, for example, you might have your CFO come to you and say, hey, Patrick, I need a financial risk assessment on this particular company. Can you please run it and get it sent to me? You'd then be able to put their email address in there. When it is ready and prepared, it would be sent over to them automatically. Next step is obviously to click purchase, and from there an email is generated. Now, you won't get charged immediately. Where there is no financial, so you've selected self-provided financial, or you may have selected ASIC ASX, but it's actually not available from those 2 sources, we'll be in contact with you just to talk through the process of how we go about collecting that information. You'll also have a quote here where it does say purchase, just so you understand how much it is, because there's different pricing based on, one, the type of assessment you want. The analysis report is slightly more expensive as it has that human commentary being added to it. If you're providing self-provided financials, that's actually cheaper than using ASX or ASIC information, as we have to go and purchase that from ASIC, for example. And of course, 2 to 3 years, well, 3 years is going to be more expensive than 2 because there's additional analysis that needs to be provided there. So you'll actually get a dollar figure provided to you as well. So very easy to obviously order it. We will then be in contact to talk you through the process if we need to go and source that information. And you'll obviously have that report within 2 business days. Okay, very easy. Let's have a look at the reports themselves. So as I mentioned, they are quite comprehensive. You've got your standard ABR ASIC summary. Remember, we're providing all of the information that you would see in a Creditwatch report. We're providing that in this financial risk assessment as well. We've got the credit score and the changes historically over the past 12 months. Then we start to get into the financial summary. So fairly high level information here, and you can see that we've got 3 years worth of financials. We've got standard reporting periods, so some base data that you require for this to understand where and how the information is being assessed. We can see things like obviously revenue, profit, EBITDA. We can see their balance sheet, assets and liabilities, which is coming direct from their financials. We've got an analysis here that comes through, so it's talking about the various elements of the report and the ratios, and then an explanation of how that entity is actually performing based on that particular section of the financials that we're looking at. So you can start to actually drill down and see that, for example, the net profit margin is satisfactory in the most recent year of assessment. This measure illustrates the profits left after all ordinary expenses have been deducted from revenue. So there's some general analysis being provided there across all of these indicators. The data is then put into easily visualized graphs for you. So regardless of whether you are an accountant, CFO, CA yourself, or you are new to financial analysis, junior in a risk team, for example, we're providing you with that easily ingested, visualized information, so you can, one, understand what they're talking about, and two, start to visualize it and also use it in presentations if required. Next thing here, income statement, balance sheet, key ratios being put together based on the previous 2 financial years here. So we've got 18 versus 17. Important to understand, is profit margin increasing? Is EBITDA going up or down? Debt to equity ratio, is that a good number? Is it going backwards? All of these sorts of things that you need to understand to ensure that this particular entity can fulfill a sizable supplier contract, for example, or you can justify providing them with a $500,000 or $1 million plus credit limit. We've got a nice glossary at the end of the financial calculations as well. And if I just jump over to the report with the analysis and go to that, there we go. You can actually see that you start to get that that more human element to the report, where they're actually going to go through and explain what they're seeing, the ups, the downs, the goods, the bads, that sort of thing, and actually start to provide a bit of a recommendation and a summary based on the information that they've had a look at. It's almost like having your own sort of outsourced financial analyst, or if you're a smaller business, CFO type of arrangement within your business, so you can start to feel more comfortable dealing with credit limits or supplier contracts of large sizes. So high-level benefits here of a financial risk assessment. Obviously, getting reliable analysis from a CA, CPA, or similar. You can confidently make high-value financial decisions. Information is formatted into simple explanations and visual aids. So for the time poor, a quick decision can be arrived at with the summary and the graphical illustrations. And for strategic and high value decisions, the detailed analysis provides the required comprehensive information. You can save time and money by outsourcing what is generally a fairly complex assignment to complete. And ultimately, at the end of it, you're able to go, do your customers have the financial capability to pay for the goods and services that you're providing on credit? Are your key suppliers who you depend on to run your operations, do they have the financial capability to continue to supply you with goods and services? And using that third one that I gave an example of earlier, contractors, would the contractors who bid for your project, for example, have the financial capability to fulfill the contract, or are they going to run out of steam midway through the project? Okay. The 2 reports I provided and showed you, obviously, a detailed financial analysis is written up and includes outlining key sort of financial strengths and weaknesses, the trend of the entity's financial performance over time. It tracks key financial ratios and also will flag any material concerns or areas to watch for based on the overall assessment that has been provided. So next question, an obvious one here, would you like to be contacted, or would you like more information on the financial risk assessments? We can get someone to be in contact, go into a little bit more detail for you, potentially run one, on a larger customer of yours that might have a sizable credit limit. Could be that you're in the middle of assessing a supplier arrangement or in a tender process. We are keen to sort of speak to you, get your feedback on it, see if it is of value. So please, let us know. It's a good way for us to obviously target future phone calls, emails, etc. Okay, getting there. Almost got everyone voted. So thank you to those who have. I'm going to close this now. So I guess this takes me to questions and feedback. So I'll jump in and have a look to see how many we've got. What would the rough turnaround time for the different types of reports be? You're probably looking at, I'd say, 24 to 48 hours or 1 to 2 business days. It could be quicker if the volumes aren't high for that particular day, but that's the SLA that we're running to is up to 2 business days at the moment. Second question here, we've got, can we get a sample copy of these reports? Yes, definitely. They'll be included in the presentation when it gets sent out. But also when you go into Creditwatch, you can actually, when you click on, where are we? Let me just go back in here. When you click onto financial risk assessment, there's the ability to access the 2 examples there. Can these reports be customized? At the moment, no, they can't be customized. They're going to be obviously a standard structure and format that's coming through. However, we certainly are open to giving you the ability to customize them or requesting, different information, unique information, more information. I would suggest you get in contact with us, or we can get in contact with you. I've obviously got your details there in front of me, and we can talk through that. Certainly something to consider. Next question, does the entity being assessed get notified that they are being assessed, and by who? So I guess this is a yes/no answer. If their financials are available with ASIC or the ASX, then no, we do not have to notify them because we've got the information there. If we don't have the financial information, if we don't have a year or 2 of financials from that particular entity, either yourselves or we will need to be in contact with that entity to ask for those financials. So in that case, they are going to be notified because they're most likely going to ask, why do you need my financials? Last question here we've got, how would you rate the customer if declined due to consideration of privacy? I may have to come back to you on that, Tony. I'm not sure if you're asking in terms of decline, are you suggesting that the customer has said, no, I'm not providing financials? If that's the case, you then would have to question whether you want to offer them, that supplier contract or that credit report. That credit limit, credit account. If they're asking for a sizable limit or to be a key supplier, it should be a fairly easy conversation for you to have to say, well, if you're not willing to provide that information, we're not going to be able to give you that credit limit. We're going to have to assess you on a much lower credit limit, and on the supplier side of it, it could be a straight no, or we're not going to engage you as a supplier. Sorry, a couple more questions coming here, which is good. Can the current credit risk alert report from Creditwatch be combined with the financial risk assessment report? So all the information that you see on Creditwatch, so ASIC information, credit score, whether there's any adverse information, that will be included in the report as well. And then you can obviously monitor that particular entity going forward. There's no alert that links that's going to change. That's going to tell you that there's a change in their financial health, for example. However, if they are an ASIC entity, ASIC reporting entity, when they next lodge their financials with ASIC, you would get an alert for that. And last question here is, I'll need to wrap up. Are these only for Australian entities? Yes, for the time being, they are only for Australian entities. What you will find, however, is that plenty of other countries, it is standard for them to submit their financial information. So the UK, US, plenty of other countries submit their financials to their governing, corporate body like ASIC equivalent, and within the international reports that we provide through your Creditwatch account, you can actually order international reports that will include the financials. It may not have a financial risk assessment, it may not have that analysis, but yourself, you would be able to see the financials in there as well. All right, thank you everyone for today. There's obviously plenty of questions that people have. If you do have a question, I do encourage you to get in contact with us, support@creditwatch.com.au, call 1300 50 13 12, or just contact your your account manager or your customer service representative, and they will be able to assist you with those questions. So thank you all for joining me today. It was a great turnout, plenty of good questions, which I really enjoy, and I hope you all got something out of it, and we will see you very soon. Thanks very much. Bye.